Let me ask you something personal. When you finish dinner tonight and put the leftovers in the refrigerator, what goes through your mind? Probably something practical, something responsible. You are thinking about not wasting food. You're thinking about saving a little money. Maybe you are already planning tomorrow's lunch in your head. That is a completely reasonable thing to do. Most people do exactly the same thing. But what if I told you that for 4 very specific foods, that reasonable habit is quietly setting off a chain of chemical reactions inside your body that medical researchers have connected to one of the most dangerous cancers in existence? Not from one meal, not from one week, but from years of repetition, week after week, without anyone ever telling you what was actually happening. I am Dr. Gregory Allen, and I have spent over 2 decades in clinical medicine watching patients receive diagnoses that came completely without warning. And the question I hear more than almost any other, sitting across from someone who just got devastating news, is this: why did nobody ever tell me about this sooner? That question stays with me. Today I want to give you the information that most people never receive, not because it is hidden, but because nobody has sat down and explained it in plain language. We are going to cover 4 specific foods that millions of people reheat every single week. What actually happens to those foods at the chemical level the second time heat touches them, and why that process connects directly to a cancer that gives you almost no warning and very little time once it arrives. Stay with me. This is worth your full attention. Before we get to the 4 foods, I need to take 2 minutes to explain why the pancreas specifically matters so much in this conversation. Most organs in your body will tell you when something is wrong. Your heart sends chest pressure. Your lungs make breathing difficult. Your stomach cramps and protests. These signals are uncomfortable, but they exist for a reason. They give you time to respond. The pancreas does not work that way. It sits quietly behind your stomach, doing its job regulating blood sugar and producing digestive enzymes. And when damage begins accumulating inside it, you feel nothing. No pain, no swelling. No signal that anything has changed. By the time a person experiences the first real symptom of pancreatic cancer, whether that is persistent back pain, yellowing of the skin, or unexplained weight loss that will not stop, the disease has typically been developing in silence for years. The 5-year survival rate for pancreatic cancer sits at approximately 12%. Read that number again, 12. That is not a disease where catching it early gives most people a fighting chance. It is a disease where not developing it in the first place is the only strategy that reliably works. That is exactly what today is about. Now, I want to explain the actual science of what happens when food gets reheated. Because without this piece, everything else I tell you today will sound like I am just trying to scare you. I am not. I am trying to show you documented biochemistry in plain language. When food is cooked the first time, chemical reactions occur. Proteins interact with sugars, fats begin to break down, nitrogen compounds interact with amino acids. In most cases, the amounts of potentially harmful compounds produced during a single round of cooking are small enough that a healthy body can process and clear them without significant damage. The problem is what happens the second time. When you apply heat to food that has already been cooked and then stored, 3 things happen at once. First, whatever antioxidant compounds were present in the original food, the natural buffers that help your body neutralize harmful substances, have already been significantly degraded during the first cooking. They are largely gone. Second, the same chemical reactions that produce small amounts of concerning compounds the first time are triggered again, but now without those protective buffers working against them. Third, during the time the food spent cooling and sitting in your refrigerator, bacterial activity and natural enzymatic processes were already quietly converting certain compounds, particularly nitrates found in vegetables, into more reactive and more dangerous intermediate forms. When heat hits those intermediates again, it drives the reaction all the way forward into carcinogens. The 2 families of compounds researchers are most concerned about are called nitroso compounds, also known as nitrosamines, and heterocyclic amines. Both have been classified by the International Agency for Research on Cancer as probable human carcinogens. Animal research has specifically identified nitroso compounds as a pathway to pancreatic damage. This is published science, not theory. Now let us talk about the four foods. The first food is processed meat. And I want to be specific about what that means because this category is broader than most people realize. Hot dogs, sausages, bacon, ham, deli meats like salami, bologna, and turkey slices from the package, canned meat. Any meat product that has been cured, smoked, salted, or preserved using nitrates or nitrites as part of the manufacturing process. Here is what makes this category different from everything else on this list. These foods already contain a measurable concentration of nitrosamines before they ever reach your kitchen. That is not an accusation. That is simply a chemical consequence of how they are made. The nitrites added during processing react with the naturally occurring amines in meat protein during production, and that reaction produces nitrosamines as a byproduct. The food arrives in your refrigerator already carrying a chemical load that independent research has classified as a probable carcinogen. Now, here is where reheating becomes the multiplier. When you apply heat to these foods a second time, you are not starting with a clean slate. You are applying heat to something that already contains these compounds, and heat is exactly what accelerates nitrosamine formation further. The higher the temperature and the longer the exposure, the more the reaction compounds. Frying processed meat in a pan or microwaving it at full power produces meaningfully higher concentrations of these compounds than the food originally contained when it came out of the package. Research examining the connection between dietary nitroso compounds and pancreatic cancer risk has found that high intake of these specific compounds is associated with elevated risk. Studies on processed and red meat consumption have pointed to heterocyclic amines, polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, and nitroso compounds produced during high-temperature cooking as key mechanisms. Think of it this way: eating processed meat once, prepared fresh at a moderate temperature, is already a chemical event your body has to manage. Reheating it at high heat is adding fuel to a reaction that never needed more encouragement. I am not telling you to never eat these foods again. That is your decision to make. What I am telling you is this: if you do eat them once, prepared fresh, and never put them back in the microwave on high. The second food is the one that surprises people most, and I say that based on years of these conversations. Spinach. Not just spinach specifically, but the whole family of nitrate-rich leafy greens. Kale, celery, beets, carrots. The vegetables that nutritionists have been correctly telling you to eat more of for decades. And I want to be clear before I explain the risk. That advice is still correct. Fresh spinach is genuinely one of the most nutritious foods you can eat. Rich in iron, folate, antioxidants, compounds that support cardiovascular health. There is nothing wrong with spinach. The problem is entirely about what happens to it after it has been cooked and then reheated. Here is the chemistry. Spinach contains naturally occurring nitrates. In fresh spinach, these are completely harmless and actually beneficial for blood pressure regulation. But once spinach is cooked and then begins to cool and sit, even inside a refrigerator, bacterial activity and enzymatic processes within the cooked vegetable start converting those benign nitrates into nitrites. This conversion does not stop. It continues throughout the storage period. The longer cooked spinach sits, the higher its nitrite content becomes. When you reheat it, two reactions occur simultaneously. The heat drives further nitrite production from any remaining nitrates. And the heat also triggers a reaction between the accumulated nitrites and the amino acids present in the spinach, producing nitrosamines. The same class of compounds we discussed in the processed meat section, now being generated inside a vegetable you were eating specifically for your health. Research published in the journal Foods specifically cautioned against storing boiled spinach for more than 12 hours at room temperature because of exactly this nitrate to nitrosamine conversion pathway. Celery is particularly worth noting here. It contains exceptionally high concentrations of nitrates, higher than most people would expect. When celery is cooked into a soup or stew, and that dish is reheated repeatedly over several days, each heating cycle pushes the conversion further. The practical solution is straightforward. Cook leafy greens in the quantity you plan to eat immediately. If you have leftover cooked spinach or kale, eat it cold the next day as part of a salad. Cold does not drive this reaction. Only heat does. If you have stayed with me this far, I already know something about you. You take your health seriously. You want real information, not just general advice. Most people watching this right now will finish the video and scroll away without subscribing, and then they will never find this channel again. If what you have heard so far is genuinely useful to you, tap subscribe before we continue. It takes 1 second. The next 2 foods are coming right now. The third food on this list is cooking oil. Specifically, what happens when oil that has already been heated once gets heated again, and what happens to any food that was cooked in that oil when you reheat it. Most people have a vague sense that reusing cooking oil is not ideal. What very few people understand is the specific chemistry of why, and how directly that chemistry connects to DNA damage and cancer risk. When a polyunsaturated cooking oil, and this includes sunflower oil, corn oil, soybean oil, and canola oil, reaches cooking temperature, a process called lipid peroxidation begins. The chemical bonds in the oil react with oxygen and heat, and that reaction produces a cascade of oxidized compounds. Aldehydes, including 2 particularly concerning ones called acrolein and 4-hydroxynonenal, polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, and in the presence of starchy foods, acrylamide. These compounds are genotoxic. That means they cause direct damage to DNA strands, which is the foundational mechanism through which cancer development begins. When that oil is reheated, or when food that was fried or cooked in that oil is reheated, the oxidation process picks up exactly where it left off. Each additional exposure to heat compounds the damage already done. The temperature at which the oil begins to visibly break down gets lower with each use, meaning it reaches its toxic threshold faster and at less intense heat every time you use it again. There is an additional risk specific to reheating fried foods in a microwave that most people never consider. Microwave heating is inherently uneven. Some areas of the food reach very high temperatures, while adjacent areas barely warm at all. The scorched areas, even when the scorching is not visible to the naked eye, produce the highest concentrations of all 3 classes of harmful compounds. You may be eating food that looks perfectly fine and contains localized concentrations of genotoxic compounds you cannot see or taste. The International Agency for Research on Cancer has classified both acrylamide and polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons as probable human carcinogens. The practical guidance here is direct. Eat fried foods once, immediately after cooking. If reheating is necessary, use an oven at moderate temperature to warm the food evenly. And discard used frying oil after a single use. Do not save it for next time. The fourth food is rice. And I need to tell you up front that this one works through a completely different mechanism than the previous 3. With processed meat, spinach, and cooking oils, the concern is chemical compounds that form or accumulate during the reheating process itself. Rice is different. The danger with rice is a bacterial toxin that forms during storage. And the critical thing you need to understand is that reheating does not destroy it. Here is what happens. When rice is cooked, the heat kills most bacteria, but a specific organism called Bacillus cereus produces spores that survive the boiling process and remain dormant inside the cooked grain. When cooked rice sits at room temperature, even for a relatively short time, those spores activate and the bacteria begin multiplying rapidly. As they multiply, they produce toxins. 2 types, actually. One triggers vomiting within a few hours of consumption. The other causes diarrhea and is produced specifically during the storage phase rather than after eating. Now here's the part that catches almost everyone off guard. When you reheat the rice, the heat does kill the bacteria that are present, but the toxins, those bacteria already produced while the rice was sitting, they are heat stable. They survive full microwave reheating. They survive being brought back to a boil on the stovetop. The bacteria are gone, the toxins remain in the food, and you consume them with every bite. In the short term, the result is food poisoning symptoms. Unpleasant, but manageable for most people. The long-term concern, and this is the connection that almost never gets discussed, is what happens with repeated low-level exposure over years. Chronic irritation of the intestinal lining from heat-stable bacterial toxins is a pathway to persistent intestinal inflammation. And chronic gastrointestinal inflammation is one of the most consistently documented risk factors for colorectal and gastrointestinal cancers in the medical literature. The connection has been replicated across multiple large studies. The protocol that eliminates this risk is specific and simple. After cooking, get rice into the refrigerator within 1 hour. Store it for no longer than 24 hours. When you reheat it once only, and make sure it reaches steaming hot temperature all the way through, not just warm in the middle. And cook smaller quantities so there's less leftover to store in the first place. Let me pull all of this together into something you can actually use starting today. 4 foods, 4 distinct mechanisms, 1 underlying principle. The way you handle food after it has been cooked the first time has measurable consequences for your exposure to compounds that cancer researchers have specifically connected to the cancers with the lowest survival rates. Reheated processed meats produce elevated concentrations of nitrosamines, compounds that research has linked to pancreatic cancer development and that international cancer agencies classify as probable human carcinogens. Reheated spinach and other nitrate-rich vegetables convert their naturally occurring nitrates into nitrites and then into nitrosamines through a heat-driven reaction that is entirely preventable by eating them cold or cooking them fresh in smaller portions. Reheated cooking oils and fried foods deliver an accumulating load of genotoxic compounds, including aldehydes, polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, and acrylamide, with each additional heating cycle adding to the total damage. Improperly stored and reheated rice delivers heat-resistant bacterial toxins that survive the microwave and contribute to chronic intestinal inflammation through repeated weekly exposure over years and decades. None of this asks you to overhaul your entire diet. It asks for 4 specific adjustments to how you handle these 4 specific foods. Applied consistently, those 4 changes meaningfully reduce your exposure to the chemical pathways that researchers connect to some of the most serious cancers in modern medicine. Before you go, I want to ask you one question in the comments below. Which of these 4 foods surprised you the most? Was it the spinach, the rice, something else entirely? I ask that genuinely, not just to drive engagement. The answers I receive from people watching these videos consistently tell me where the largest gaps in everyday health education actually are. And that shapes every conversation I bring to you after this one. So your answer matters more than you might think. If this video gave you something concrete you will actually use this week, share it with someone who needs to hear it, not for the sake of this channel. For the person in your life who reheats their leftover sausage every morning and has never once thought about the chemistry going along with it? Coming up next, we're going to cover 5 breakfast foods that have been consistently marketed as healthy choices, particularly for adults over 60, and what the research is increasingly showing about the gap between that marketing and the actual science. One important note before I go: everything I have shared today is grounded in published biochemistry and the documented findings of international cancer research organizations. This is educational information, not personal medical advice for your individual situation. Please speak with your own physician about any specific concerns regarding your health or your diet. I will see you in the next one.